everyone. Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I'm Jason Oliver, your co-host, along with Jeff Arbuckle. Say Jeff Arbuckle.
Hey, what's up? I am Arbuckle, Jeff.
Say Chuck Moore.
Hey, Chuck Moore.
We can all say Chuck Moore. We can say Chuck. We can say Chuck all day. We can Chuck.
Oh, geez.
All day long.
We are off to a great start.
I was gonna say,
we used to
Chuck this beginning.
we used to have problems finishing episodes. Now we can't start them.
Can't start them. Can't do it. Well, you have clicked on the episode for 1989's
Yes.
Field of Dreams. This is week 3 of our baseball month. So if you didn't listen to our episodes on The Natural and on Bull Durham, those are out there. This is week 3. We're going to talk about some Costner again, and in a very nice, as we put it, very nice movie, Field of Dreams.
It's very nice. It's very nice. It is like it feels like the polar opposite of Bull Durham, where that is very cynical and very R-rated. This one is. I'm not sure if I actually did hear the F-bomb from Timothy Busfield. I think I did.
He almost gets it out, but I think he stops it.
I think he says the "fuh" and then he stops. But anyway, no, this is like the opposite. This was clean enough to sell on VHS if you bought a fucking Big Mac at McDonald's.
Yeah, but they called them fucking Big Macs.
Yes, they did. Come down here, buy a fucking Big Mac, and get a copy of Mac and Me, you fuckers.
Get this wholesome movie, Field of Dreams, with your fucking Big Mac.
Oh, my. It's also worth mentioning that this is our second movie that we've covered directed by Phil Alden Robinson.
Yes.
The first being Sneakers. Sneakers came a few years after this one.
It was probably his next movie, wasn't it?
It might have been. Yes, it was. It was. He didn't make very many movies. He wrote some other things, but yeah, he didn't make a ton of movies.
And this is peak Costner. He's coming off of Bull Durham and about to go and win some Oscars
for Dance with Wolves, right?
Wolves, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. They almost didn't ask him to make this movie, because they didn't think that he'd want to do 2 baseball movies in a row. But
and he's like, what are you talking about? I'm the baseball guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks turned this movie down, which is kind of wild. I could see him in the role, though. I could really easily see him in the role.
I could see this becoming the Money Pit 2.
There'd be a whole montage of him like fucking up and like making a field.
and then when Timothy Busfield comes to tell him that he's going to lose the place, he just laughs. He just laughs at him.
He would get like stuck in the bleachers. And
he just starts laughing when his daughter gets dumped off the back of the bleachers, like Maud Flanders.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God.
Well, that went off the rails.
I don't know if we made the movie better or worse. I think we know the answer.
Oh, we definitely do.
It's way better. No. Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
All right, back on track.
Yeah, back on track. The role that went to Burt Lancaster of Moonlight Graham was originally offered to Jimmy Stewart. How interesting is that?
Huh.
I didn't even know he was still alive in 1989, but I guess he was. He wasn't really doing much acting anymore, though.
Huh.
But he turned it down. Yeah.
I could see him doing this too. He almost has like more sentimentality to him just by just looking at him.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster in this seemed kind of removed from this film to me. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know if he was trying to be Ghost Steel, but he seems almost Ghost Steel.
I've always felt that whole sequence is very Ghost Steel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what they're going for now. I think so, but we'll talk about that, I guess, when we get there. That's interesting too about Jimmy Stewart, because a lot of the critics called this movie very Capra-esque, after it came out. And the Jimmy Stewart connection to that, in retrospect, would have really fit even more so to that, right? And that, in fact, that's the reason why Costner took the role. He said he said it had the potential to become the new "It's a Wonderful Life." Is what drew him to it. Yep.
Yeah,
I
and
can see that.
they
Yeah.
show "It's a Wonderful Life" during the movie too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not. It's a Wonderful Life. It's not.
It's Harvey.
It's Harvey. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's another Stewart.
It's another
movie.
Jimmy
Yeah.
Stewart film. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
Harvey.
but no, it's
Yeah.
Harvey because that's the great line that he has in this movie, which is the daughter. He turns off the TV because he's already heard the voice the day before,
Right.
and he turns off
He's
the
identifying
TV.
a little too closely with Jimmy
Right.
Stewart. Right?
And so he's talking about how like he hears this voice and he turns around and it's this 6-foot rabbit, and he turns off the TV and the daughter's like, "Why did you turn that off? It was funny." He's like, "No, trust me, it isn't funny." But
Oh,
yeah.
my. So
Yeah, no, that is kind of interesting. I could see, I mean, this is his last movie, Lancaster. So
well, close to. I'm not sure about.
well, it's his last theatrical
That's
movie.
theatrical. Okay.
He did a TV movie
Gotcha.
miniseries. So actually,
So
the 3
it-
TV
so-
movies after this.
It's also based on a novel. The novel came out in '82, I believe, and it's called Shoeless Joe. It was originally titled Dreamfield, but the publisher changed it to Shoeless Joe. So when it was adapted, the author H.P. Kinsella was able to get some input into kind of retitling it what he originally wanted it to be, and thus Field of Dreams. You might notice the author's name is Kinsella. That's our main character, is Ray
Oh
Kinsella.
yeah,
But there's weird coincidences and connections here to J.D. Salinger. Did you dig
Of
into this,
course.
Chuck?
Yes, actually, I kind of noticed while I was watching it, so I went and sought it out, and yes,
Yeah.
I did. But go ahead.
Well, tell us what you found.
Well, I found that Ray Kinsella appeared twice in J.D. Salinger stories. I think I recognized the name from Catcher in the Rye, but he was also in a short story, which I cannot remember the name of.
The surname was not Ray Kinsella, but yes, Ray Kinsella was, I believe, the full name was in Catcher in the Rye. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he was in a short story about a girl with the waist or something. I can't remember what it's
Yeah,
called.
something like that. Yeah.
But obviously there are parallels to a character in this movie too, being J.D. Salinger, which is somehow I ended up on It's a Wonderful Life. Sorry. Yeah, Terence Man
Yep.
is very Salinger-esque in his, being a recluse, etc. So,
And of course, everyone knows Terence Mann as the actor name who played Ugg in the Critters franchise.
oh, I knew that sounded familiar.
well, Crittersmas came early this year.
But no, of course, Terence Mann is played by Darth Vader.
Yeah, James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones, thank you. Brain farting right there. And really, really great performance in this. And definitely not J.D. Salinger. J.D. Salinger was actually the character in the book, weirdly. But but obviously J.D. Salinger, the litigious type that he is, he got wind of that novel real fast, and he threatened lawsuits if they were to adapt it and use his name.
Yeah.
So they changed it to Terrence Mann. Yeah. 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 Some factoids for you.
I love it. Anytime you can get Salinger into a movie in any way, shape, or form, I'm there for it. It's kind of like when Kurt Vonnegut shows up in Back to School.
Man, that's been a minute.
Yep.
So I think, I don't know, I think that's most of the backstory I have on this movie. You want to just get into it?
I just discovered I just discovered that Moonlight Graham was a real person.
Yes, yes, he
Yes.
was.
Okay.
Yes.
In fact, the interviews that they do, that Terence Man does throughout the movie with the people that knew him, they used real facts from the real Moonlight Graham's life in the
Oh.
answers. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all real-
they're.
it's
I
all real
think
stuff.
they did a couple like artistic license stuff, but for the most part, it's Moonlight Graham's life. Yeah.
Yeah, like for example, the real guy died in 65.
For
They
sure,
moved it
yeah.
up 7 years, which is the difference between the book and the movie too.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
True
yeah.
that.
that's interesting. All right. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess we dive in.
Yeah, I think we do. It's interesting. There's not like a lot of story to this movie, really.
No, but there's a lot here though.
There is.
Because when you get to the end, you really kind of realize what the whole point is.
Yeah.
And there is this, and we'll get to it, but no, I will say right out of the gate, and again, this is because I'm a big fan of Dances with Wolves too. I do like a good Kevin Costner voiceover.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one too.
Yeah,
I've always chuckled at several moments in that sort of epilogue,
yeah,
or no, preface,
Prologue.
sorry, epilogue, prologue, yeah.
prologue. Yeah, no, yeah, I like the whole thing of like, it's like he talked about meeting his wife, and she came from Iowa, and he'd heard of Iowa was the only thing they had in common.
Yeah,
Well,
they had a daughter, and she smelled funny, but they liked her.
Yeah,
And he majored in the 60s.
Majored in the 60s. I want to talk about that right off the jump because time is weird in this movie. He's 36 when this movie starts, and it's 1988. He would have been 18 years old. He would have been a freshman in college in 1970.
Yeah, but he follows that up with he follows that up by talking about like all the stuff that he was doing that was like the typical 60s stuff that people still in the early 70s were doing, like smoking grass and being at Berkeley. I mean, I think until about 1980, I don't know, 3 or so, if you went to Berkeley, you were probably still in the 60s.
Yeah, it's just a little odd. Like I don't know that I totally claim the 80s, right? I was 10 in 1989. He would have been, I guess, 17 in 69. I guess that's more fair.
Well, you can also major in a subject that's from the past.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's just he's all into being, him and Amy Madigan are all into being like 60s kids, but they were just barely.
Right.
They didn't spend any of their adult years in the 60s.
No, but they spent their formative years. I mean, they're Kevin Arnold.
Yeah.
It's like the wonder years for them was that period.
That's fair.
Yeah, Amy Madigan sounds like she was at marches during the Vietnam War and stuff like that too.
Right.
But she probably wouldn't have.
1970 though, she could
In the
have been.
70s.
Yeah,
I
guess. Yeah, that's
She
the right
absolutely
time.
She certainly would have
Yeah.
been there for feminism, like for that the real big rise of feminism in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Or at least the widespread rise. I
love Amy Madigan.
She is,
by the way.
she is so awesome. Like she is an awesome person in this movie.
Yep. She totally is. I don't buy that she's from the Midwest with that accent, but damn it, I love her.
Yeah.
Well, but she is, if they would have made this movie 15 years later, she would have been real kooky. But in this, she's just the right amount of, hey man, whatever you want to do, I'm with you. I'm here for you.
Well, I'll just say this because I teased last week like something I was going to say about this movie, and the something that I was going to say about this movie is that I'd never watched it in full until yesterday. It was a movie that I think honestly I avoided on purpose. One, because I wasn't a huge Kevin Costner fan for whatever reason. Back then, I like him a lot more now.
I was going to say, Chuck, I can count at least 4 more Costner movies we can do. on the show.
Right. Well, and being like a huge baseball fan, like for some reason it just didn't appeal to me. I don't know why. But I brought that up because Amy Madigan, along with James Earl Jones, keep this movie from teetering over an edge where I might hate it.
Well, that's fair because I mean, like
Yeah.
the central character of this movie, Costner, is really stuck in a place where, and again, this is where the end solves itself. But for 90% of this movie, he's trapped in this kind of. He's trapped wanting to do something interesting and spontaneous with his life, unlike his father did, or at least so he thought his father did. And he's kind of stuck in this kind of he's a weird character, right? Because it's like he doesn't seem like he's particularly good at farming, although they do fine. He seems almost crazy.
Almost.
Well,
I think he is kind of crazy.
well, he might be, yeah, but he's and probably what that is from is he's harboring this guilt from when he left home, you know, and so that type of character can very easily send this movie into melodrama that wouldn't be as good.
Yeah. I mean, this is a melodramatic movie.
It is, but I mean, but I'm talking about
again,
like TV movie bad melodrama.
Yeah, but like The Natural, it gets a lot of leeway because it's kind of a fairy tale, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's fantasy, and it doesn't make really any allusions to being anything other than that, right?
Right.
You know, there isn't the scene where they take him to the doctor and they like examine his head, right? None of that.
So you've got a tumor that's the
Right.
size of a basketball inside your skull.
It doesn't resolve like with him collapsing and dying from a brain tumor or some bullshit, right? Yeah, exactly. It plays it straight. This is a fairy tale, and so because of that, it gets a ton of leeway. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, so this movie moves quick too.
Sure does. Yep.
Like there is no
2 hours.
There, well, it's not even 2 hours. There is no fat on this movie whatsoever, which is, I think, really good. I think it really kind of helps push that fairy tale idea.
Mhm.
It's like don't worry about the detail. The details will come later. We've got to get through the first act.
Yep.
And that's, you know, it's like whatever it takes to get through. It is probably. I feel like the first act of this movie is only about 10 minutes long. And then there's like a long third act. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Really, the first act ends with him with the field built,
And that's
right?
15 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, so yeah, we start with like him doing his thing out in his cornfield, and he hears this voice, and he's like, "Yeah, wait, what'd you say?" He's like, you know, and his wife's like all the way over on the porch or whatever, and he hears the voice again. It's like, "Oh, come on, you've had to have heard that." And she's like, "Yeah, what? I don't know." Like, and so basically, he hears the voice, and this is one of those great misquoted lines. The line is actually, "If you build it, he will come." Most
Right,
everybody
right.
says they.
Yeah.
Meaning the baseball players. We find out who he is later.
Yeah.
So yeah, but take it from there, Jason.
Well, it's non-Adam. What I love is he's got a good relationship with his wife. Like he doesn't hide this. He tells her like, "I'm hearing voices. This is fucking freaking me out."
And she's like, "You're hearing voices?" Like, well, one. Just one.
Yeah, just one.
As if that makes it better.
And she kind of like helps talk him through it. It's like, well, what do they want you to build? Who's gonna come? He's like, I don't know. I asked it. It wouldn't tell me. You know? Like, well, I hate when that happens. You know?
Oh
Like,
man,
yeah,
I
me
hate that.
too.
That's a bummer.
It's like, yeah, that's far out, man. And,
It's a
but
stone
eventually-
cold bummer.
stone cold bummer. But then it dawns on him. He just kind of has. I don't know. Was there something that triggered his realization? I can't remember. Like,
Well, he hears it again in the middle of the night.
yeah.
And so now it's like this is the third or fourth time he's heard the voice. And
Oh, that's right. He sees it. He sees it in the field.
yeah, so he goes outside, and then there's like a kind of like a shimmering, like he
like
sees
a mirage.
Right. He sees like the lights, he sees the diamond, and he's like, they want me to build a baseball diamond.
Yeah.
And again, and like Amy Madigan is not necessarily telling him not to, but she is sometimes taking the piss out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's but he's it's basically the middle of the night. He can't sleep. He's thinking over it, and they decide to do it. Let's do it. And he's like, I can't believe it, but okay, it's like, this is great. And he gets to work immediately.
Yeah.
And the rest of the town knows it too.
Yeah. There's one corny scene before he builds it where he goes
the whole
into town.
beginning. There's a lot of corn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of corn in the whole movie.
That was a corny joke.
Yeah,
Go
sure
ahead,
was.
Jason. Sorry.
When he goes into the feed store or whatever, right?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
all the farmers are there, and he's asking the one farmer if it's normal for other farmers to hear voices in the corn or something like that. It's really kind of goofy. And there's that like shot of all the people just staring at him.
While Patsy Cline's Crazy is playing.
Yeah,
it's very, very hammer overhead.
It's pretty hammy. I could have done without that scene altogether, to be quite honest. But yeah, he comes home. He tells his wife, I got to do this. I don't want to be my dad. I want to do something spontaneous in my life. So I'm going to do this. And she agrees, and builds it in a day. It feels like, and then they wait. All right. It's like somebody's supposed to come, right? That's the second part of this whole deal. And it seems like they wait a while. Christmas
Easter
comes and
winter.
goes.
Yeah,
exactly. And all the people think he's crazy. That's the other kind of goofy part, was where they're all like, all the townsfolk are watching from the road while he plows over his field. It's kind of like goofy. It's like, would they really be doing that?
Maybe small towns, maybe
that's entertainment.
Well, not that it's entertainment, but you kind of get the impression that they are already considered outsiders.
Right, for sure. Because they're definitely not from there. Yeah,
because they do end up going to this PTA meeting.
Yeah,
where it's like I think all of it is made to point out that these damn liberal hippies have moved into our town, and everybody is kind of they're gossipy. They follow the one woman that was in every movie back then that plays the lady that wants to burn the Terence Man.
Oh yeah,
the Nazi.
Yeah. And she's it seems like she's kind of the main the head honcho of all the gossip and all the bad feeling in town.
Yeah.
And so because I think she's one of the people out there. It's like, oh, they're going to lose their farm, blah blah blah, and they feed off that shit. They feed off of whatever they can do to feel superior, I think.
But that scene serves a couple different purposes, right? Because it allows Amy Madigan to kind of get her moment of revisiting her.
Oh yeah, at the PTA meeting, yeah.
At the PTA meeting, yeah, and it also obviously introduces us to who Terence Man is, right? Because he's a fictional author, but we get some sense of gravity about who he was and how important he was to that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one who inspired a lot of people to stand up for what's right, and and all of that. And of course, the weirdest line of this movie is, well, you know why he doesn't write anymore? He masturbated.
Yeah, so weird.
It's like, just once? Because I write a lot, and I've more than once in my lifetime.
Stop there. Let's just stop there.
TMI. Terence Man information.
I am kind of. Now I'm starting to get real worried about exactly what the limit is here. Where's it at, Nazi lady? What's the limit?
Oh boy.
Oh.
Oh boy.
So where were we? The people were watching
GTA
from the road.
Well,
and then
he's waiting for. He thinks it's going to be Shoeless Joe, right? He's sure that that's the person who's supposed to come is Shoeless Joe.
Yep.
And he waits for a while.
And it should be mentioned that part of that prologue also was about how Shoeless Joe was his dad's hero,
Favorite ball player. Yep.
And later on, like, because his mom died when he was really young, and and his dad was old by the time that he was born too, and so there wasn't a very good relationship between them. It was too much of an age gap. They started to kind of become adversarial to one another. They had just different points of view on things.
His dad was a ball player, played a little minor league ball, but it didn't pan out.
Started working on the docks, and that's where he got. And that's when he got old.
That's when he got old. Yep.
And then they ended up moving to New York, where his dad became a Yankees fan. A lot of that was because he couldn't, because he felt bad about rooting for the Sox or something like that, because of the cheating scandal from his youth. So then he became a Yankees fan. So of course, Kevin Costner became a Giants fan.
Yeah.
But then they moved, or no, Dodgers fan. He was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then of course Brooklyn and New York moved, and so that kind of inspired him to want to move away too. Kind of that you get that in the kind of the subtext of it.
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it later that we find out, but yeah, that's in the prologue. So he's just convinced that it's going to be Shoeless Joe, and he's starting to tell his daughter, while he's making the field, he's telling his daughter all about Shoeless Joe and what kind of ball player he was, and how Babe Ruth copied his swing and all that kind of stuff, right? And how batting averages and all that. It's really kind of sweet moment because he's getting excited again. He's getting excited about his life. He's getting excited about baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but yet you wait, and then it's spring, and it's essentially like they don't have any money. Like they've spent all the money on this field, all their savings. They don't have a crop that's going to be able to pay for. It's just going to barely break even, essentially. So it's a weird way to introduce Amy Madigan's family, but her brother, his wife, I think, and her mom are at the house, and it's almost like an intervention. It's like, you got to do something about this baseball field and plant crops, or you're going to lose the house.
Yeah, you gave up too many. I mean, the each acre is worth about $2,200.
Yeah, and
you gave up basically a couple of acres worth to build this baseball field.
Yeah.
And
the thing with that scene is that I kind of get is, again, it's like there's no fat on the bone, right? These are probably conversations that happened over Christmas, that happened over Thanksgiving, right?
Oh, they've been building for a long time. They've been
building to a head to this point. Yeah.
Well, in a sort of a way, let's put okay, this is weird, but let's put Timothy Busfield into the Kevin Costner character and have him do this. It would just be a remake of Close Encounters, but with baseball instead of aliens.
So he's Richard Dreyfuss?
Yeah, he's kind of a little Richard Dreyfuss in this movie. They couldn't afford Richard Dreyfuss on a $15 million budget, though. They got
Close Encounters of the Third Base.
That too was pretty corny, Chuck.
Yeah, I'll allow it though.
But no, I just kept thinking, it's like, God, Timothy Busfield was like, it's like who you got when you needed a Richard Dreyfuss, but it was 10 years too late and you don't have that much money.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, all the characters are to the nth degree in this movie because there's no fat on the bone.
Yeah.
Even like you guys were talking about earlier, all the townspeople watching, that just feels like a little representation of word of mouth, right? Like that's the way they approach nearly everything in this movie is just how do we represent this really extremely so we don't have to tell a 3-hour story.
Yeah, because it's like because all of that happens very quickly, you can spend more time with the actual journey that comes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the important part, really.
Which is about to start here while they're having dinner talking about the finances, right?
Yeah.
Little Gabby Hoffman comes in and says there's a man outside. And,
well, no, this is so he meets Shoeless Joe. Yeah, they're talking about the finances.
Oh, yeah, but he met him the night before. That's right.
Yeah, because she says when they're going over the finances about because they lost their savings and they're trying to figure out what they're going to end up making with the upcoming season, and that they're going to barely make it. That's when little Gabby Hoffman comes up and says, "There's a man in your field." Right. And he goes out and there's that Shoeless Joe. Then they have the conversation with Timothy Busfield and family. Yeah. And Gabby Hoffman comes in again, whispers the game's about to start.
Yeah. Right.
And he's like, well, look, he's going off to go watch TV instead of talk about serious stuff, not realizing that he's outside watching the Black Sox play practice, basically.
Right.
Because they only have 8. They don't have the 9th guy. They can't play a real game. Because Timothy Busfield comes out. It's like, what are you doing staring at this field? This is dumb. And he's like, well, I'm watching again. It's not a real game. It's just practice because you see they don't have a full team. And he's like, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh, you can't see that. And then we find out that only certain people who are touched by some of these things are able to really see what's going on. Yeah. Which is important because
it's a little bit Harvey here. Yeah,
it is. But at the same time, it helps you realize who the real, like the people who really stand for something or really are good people who are not like basically beaten down by adult life are able to see things.
Yeah, I wouldn't say good or bad. I would say
not necessarily good or bad, but like their life is still.
They have some childhood wonder. They're still innocent in some
a little
ways.
Vibrant. Yeah. No, a good and bad is wrong, but it also represents the pro and antagonist too. The antagonist is the reality that they're going to lose the farm, represented by Timothy Busfield.
Yeah. And he's kind of like, he's there to kind of be by the audience a little bit, the bad guy, if you will. But when you really examine what he's trying to do, he's like bending over backwards 6 different ways to try and help them, right?
Yeah.
But clearly, this movie isn't about this movie is about taking a leap of faith, right?
Yeah.
And he represents the cynical reality of things. Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring up an important word because this movie does have a message of faith, but not in the way that 2022 movies that would be said has a message of faith interprets it as. It's really kind of fascinating at the end.
It absolutely is. It's very it's very agnostic.
Yeah, that's exactly the word I thought of when I was watching this. Yeah.
Okay, so the whole Black Sox team, all 8 of them that were kicked out of baseball, show up, and they're happy as shit to be playing baseball. I mean, it's really fun stuff just watching that, right?
And they're jawing with each other. They're you can tell that these are people who are bound by something. Whether or not that everything that's happened to them is fair. They are bonded by it.
Yeah. And I guess, we kind of glossed over the first meeting with Ray and Joe, but that's a really neat scene because a lot of Ray's youthful wonder comes alive, right? And he's
nervous. He's he's trying to send fly balls out there to the outfield and he misses.
Yeah.
You know,
Then he starts to get a little playful. I was like, let's see if you can hit my curveball, you know?
right.
And Joe sends it right back. I like the line too, where Ray asks, "Don't we need a catcher?" And Shoeless Joe says, "Not if you get him anywhere near the plate."
Right.
It's good stuff. And then you have that really, really amazing performance by Ray Liotta, where he talks about his love of baseball and how he would have played for food money, and how much he loved baseball. He loved the rides on the train in between games. He loved the hotel rooms. He loved, he'd ever just like, do you ever just put your glove up to your face and smell, your glove? I mean, he loved everything about it.
Baseball is a sport that actually has a smell to it.
It's sensory.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it takes so long and so slow at times, but it gives you time to observe all of that kind of stuff. Right?
Well, there's nothing like, I mean, one of my favorite sounds is the sound of a wooden bat hitting a baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
or a fastball hitting the glove, the catcher. Yeah. But then he says, hell, I would have played for nothing. Right. And it's him kind of talking about the scandal and expressing regret. Right.
But also at the same time, it's also reaffirming what Kevin Costner said to his daughter about how he took the money, but the man batted 375 for the series and hit the only home run of the 8 games that were played of that series. Only one home run was hit, and it was by Joe,
and didn't commit any errors.
Yeah, so it's obvious that he's not. He wasn't. He maybe took the money, but he was not on the take.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this heaven?
It's
Film
Iowa.
Seizure.
No, it's Iowa. It is Film Seizure.
Don't worry
Sometimes
about
I get those mixed up. Sorry.
Don't worry about it, Jason. It's Chinatown.
It's Chinatown.
It's Chinatown.
Anywho, I wanted to make sure we didn't forget to talk about that, because that's really Joe's moment. Shoeless Joe's moment is in that first meeting.
Well, he's also just looking around like he had not been on a baseball field for. Well, I mean, he did play under assumed names after he got kicked out, but you get the impression that this is Shoeless Joe Jackson right after being kicked out.
Yeah.
That he's finding himself back in this place that he never thought he'd be again.
And then he asks, "Can I bring the other guys? It would mean a lot to them." And he's like, "Of course, yeah,
right.
Bring everyone,
whoever you got, bring
them." And there is a funny line about who they don't bring later.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
I may have missed. Is it Ty Cobb?
It's Ty Cobb, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
He's
a dickhole.
But not Ty Cobb. We all didn't like him when we were alive, so we told him to stick it. And then Ray Liotta gives off that like maniacal laugh of his.
Yeah.
That wasn't chalk running up to first base, I'll tell you that much. Sorry, Ray Liotta, I actually love you quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't look at the little girl and go, "Karen."
Since I was a little kid, I loved baseball.
Oh man.
He goes from bags to pitches.
Yep. Damn, dude.
That's pretty good. That one actually stunned me a little bit. Oh man, well, what happens next? So they're watching the baseball game, but it's really just a practice. His family, her family, and what's the character's name? It's Amy Madigan.
I always forget her name.
Anyway, her family leaves because they think they're being made fun of.
Annie,
and,
Ray, Annie, and Karen.
And so.
Oh yeah, the mom says something like, "I don't appreciate it when you." It's a real bitchy line. It's something like I don't think it's very funny when you make somebody look like a fool, and then she just
Yeah.
kind of walks off in a huff, and Amy Madigan just laughs.
Yeah, at first she's kind of like harmed by it, but it's only for about a half a second, and then she just
Yeah.
laughs. Yeah,
Lending more credence to the fact that these people, the Consillas, are fucking lunatics.
yeah. I mean, they're funny. I mean, they'd be fun
Yeah.
to hang out with.
Yes,
Oh
they
yeah. Oh yeah, you probably get some good shit off of them too if you go to one of their cookouts.
But not LSD, because
No.
Ray never took LSD. She's like,
Right.
well, maybe it's a flash forward, and you're gonna take LSD one day.
just fucking wild. So this movie, for all its like saccharineness, has some really weird crap in it.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think next he watches the whole team play or practice again, and as Shoeless Joe leaves, he gets his next message.
Yeah.
Basically, is the next major beat, I think.
He
Where he
ease his
hears-
pain is
ease
what
his
he
pain.
gets.
Yeah,
And then that's not much information to go on. To ease whose pain? What's his pain?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then that's when they.
That's the PTA meeting after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she. Yeah, and
Because
then
the book
that's
that
when
they want to ban is a book by Terence Man.
he
And she
masturbates.
stands
Guys.
up and she stands up in defense of it because it's her favorite author. It's Ray's favorite author. Or he is Terence Man is. And that's where you get kind of the backstory. He's the voice of the 60s. He was in all these things and so many important things to the activist movement and to peace and love and all of that. Which J.D. Salinger definitely wasn't, but
right. He's a little bit different.
um,
This is one of those moments where I don't really like Ray Kinsella. One of two moments where I don't like him, because
I agree. I know what you're going. Go for it.
Amy has a great moment here, and all throughout it, where he should be supporting his wife, he's in his own little world, deciphering the Terrence Man, or the ease his pain, where the conclusion he ultimately comes to is that Terrence Man is the person he needs to go see next.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
Amy Madigan who says that he had to quit writing. They've been banning his books for all in all of these different school districts and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, then it must be him.
Yeah.
Like, that's
It's
a
kind of a
leap.
weird leap.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, Chuck. He's kind of in his own little world. So continue on with that.
Yes. Go ahead,
Yeah, go
Jason.
ahead. No,
please.
go ahead. You were talking
You've
about
seen.
it.
Go.
But you're right. She's having a really big moment, and he's sort of self-absorbed. And then
Yeah.
he goes down into a Terrence Mann research montage mode and uncovers all of this. It's definitely TMI. It's Terrence Mann information mode.
Yep.
And he
TMIM.
so he finds an interview. It's the last interview that he ever gave, and Terrence Mann talks about how he had a recurring dream as a child that he was playing, I think, center field in Ebbets Field,
Mm.
and even after the team was moved away and Ebbets Field was torn down, he still has the dream. And from that, Kevin Costner, Ray comes to the conclusion he's never been to a baseball game in 18 years or something like that. Which
I
is kind
thought
of a
he
weird
said that
leap
he
to
had
make.
never. I thought he said he never went to a baseball game
No,
ever.
ever? I don't know.
I thought it was ever, but I could be wrong. No.
Either way, since he became
It's
a
been a
recluse,
while.
he's not.
Since became
going.
a recluse, right?
Yeah.
So that's when he decides he's got to drive to Boston and take Terrence Mann to a Red Sox game.
And I like that whole scene with him and Annie. Sorry, Jason.
No, go.
Where she's being combative about the whole idea, but then she comes to the realization that she had a dream about him being in the stands, eating a hot dog, taking the stats down, and Kevin Costner or Ray had the same dream. She's like, all right, I'll help you pack. I
I
love
like
it.
that too. I like that too. They're both back on the same team, right?
Yes.
And then he drives their Volkswagen bus to from Iowa to Boston. That's a long drive.
Yes,
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. Well, yes, that would be about 19 or 20 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say at least a day.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's brutal, especially in that bus. That bus doesn't get it doesn't get good gas mileage and it doesn't go very fast.
Oh no, it doesn't go very fast because in the scenes where they're driving to Minnesota later, they're having the back and forth conversation inside the van, and the van's going only about 25 miles per hour. If you look at the background, it's going by so slow.
People are walking past them.
Yeah. But then he finally finds out he doesn't even know where Terrence Man lives. He just knows like kind of the general area. So, and then he finds out what building, and then he finds out which apartment by just talking to people.
Oh, he pays off a gas
A
service station or a delivery guy or something.
Guy, yeah.
He's wearing a Celtics hat because you're in Boston.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess everything in this movie was shot actually like within a very close proximity of it was all shot in Iowa from what I understand. Other than the Fenway stuff.
Where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are in that.
Yeah, there were extras in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was just a really tight window on the shoot because Kevin Costner had another movie that he was committed to. But anyway,
it might have been Dances with Wolves.
It was Revenge, actually.
Oh, Revenge.
I don't think
okay.
I don't think I've ever seen.
Is that the one with Sean Young? Or is
yes, that sounds right. Yep.
I
still don't think I've ever seen it.
I'll look that up. Go on.
So then there's a great scene where he knocks on Terrence Mann's door, and he's been rehearsing what he's going to say, right? And it's just not going well. Terrence Mann thinks he's like a crazy fan, or then he thinks he's someone who's going to like blame him for stuff. He just doesn't want to talk, or like thinks he's a member of the press and wants to interview him. Then he thinks he's an advocate for some charity, right? And he's just not having any of it. And he's definitely not having some crazy talk about voices in fields in Iowa, right? But eventually Kevin Costner, it's really goofy. It's a silly thing that Terrence Mann agrees to go, but I think he's
1,000%.
I think he's just kind of exasperated and maybe curious at this point, because I don't think he actually believes that Ray's dangerous, even when Ray tries to kidnap him with a fake gun by putting his finger in it,
which he was practicing doing at the beginning.
Yeah, that's
his way there.
His last resort, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what am I going to do if nothing else works? Well, I'll just pretend I have a gun.
Yeah, get in the car.
And of course, Terrence Mann is like, that's just your finger. He's like, well, I'm not going to show you my gun. He's like, I'm not going to show you my gun. So then Terrence Mann gets a crowbar. He's like, well, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. And to which he's about to, and then Ray says, but you're a pacifist. He's like, shit, you got me there.
All right, so to close the loop on the Sean Young thing, that was No Way Out. Madeline Stowe was Revenge.
Oh, yeah, No Way Out's a good flick. I've seen that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so then I don't remember exactly what the last thing he is. I think he just says, I just want to take you to a ball game. It's like, just hear me out. I'm gonna take you to a ball game.
And he's so against it, but he goes.
Yeah, he's like, fine. Would that like get you out of my hair? He's like, yeah. It's like, okay, we'll go.
Yeah, because he says, I'll take you to a game, and then if you just go to the game, I'll leave you alone forever. I won't even send you a Christmas card.
That's such a great line. Oh man! So they go and at one point Kevin Costner asks him, like when they get there, he asks him, "So what do you want?" And at this point, Terrence Mann's all wound up, and he goes on this litany of just complaints about like
how the '60s went shit, and
yeah, exactly. The problems of the '60s, and
they killed Martin, then Bobby, and then and then all these people. Oh, and then what do you want? And they're standing there at the concession stand, and the three guys behind the counter cracked me up.
Yeah.
because they're listening in on everything that they're saying.
And he's like, oh, dog and a beer. It's like, well, make that too.
$7.
Yeah, that's cheap. That's real cheap. I don't even believe that it was that cheap in 1988. I'm sorry.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Not for a minute. I don't. I mean, I understood your math when you said probably $1 for each of the dogs.
Buck a dog and
And
$2.50
for a beer. Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense in 1970.
Oh man. Yeah.
You can't even get a dog for $6 nowadays, I bet.
Oh well.
I'll find out. I'll find out when I go down to Cincinnati later this year.
Some of those nights they do have like the cheap hot dog nights where it's like
That
$1
is
hot dogs.
true. Speaking of going down to Cincinnati,
I still don't believe you can get a beer for $2.50 though.
No, you can't. No,
You can get
no way.
You can still get a dog for $1 at some occasions. Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that once upon a time we used to get $1.25 PBRs,
Oh,
kgs. So anyway,
oh
but
boy.
those were troubling nights. Anyway, Chuck was there for some of them too.
Yep.
But no, the one thing that one of these days I'm gonna buy it. One of these days I'm gonna go to a Reds game and they say, do you want to add the 2 large drinks, the 5 hot dogs and nachos for $25? I'm gonna say yes one of these days. That's too good of a deal to pass up on.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the math would be for that. But anyway.
I'm sure you're saving $5.
Well, I mean, at least I would think,
Yeah.
Pre-sale is better than, you get a lot of pre-sale money.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So they go in and they're watching this game. It's the Red Sox and A's. We get that granular in what the game is. And the scoreboard looks like it's glitching out. And that's when he hears the go to distance, and it talks about Archie Moonlight Graham played in one game for the New York Giants in 1922, but never got to bat, which is true. And that was pointed out by the author going through the encyclopedia, finding that just to be weird and interesting that somebody has a game that they didn't bat in.
Yeah.
They weren't a pitcher and they didn't bat in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's
didn't even see a fly ball, nothing. Yeah. It did make a play.
Yep. He played outfield and all the action was in the infield.
Yep.
But anyway, so he says, he goes, he thinks that Terence didn't hear that or didn't see anything.
Right.
And so he thought, well, I guess you didn't need to be here after all.
Yeah.
So if you're ready to go, we can go anytime you want. And he's like, let's go. Like he wants out.
He's like, I'm going to use this moment of clarity and get the fuck out of here.
Right. So he takes him back home, but they don't really talk about anything. And Terrence Mann then, kind of,
he's fishing a little bit. He's like,
he starts to kind of get involved.
Telling me? Yeah. What are you not telling me? He's like, it's like nothing, it's nothing. And, he's like, what?
Well, what did you see?
Or what did you see? Or what did you hear? And I said that he's done enough.
Leave him alone. Take him. Yeah. Leave him alone.
Yep.
And so, he gets out of the van, he's going to go and he's quick. He's a quick moving dude.
Yeah.
Because he's going to go, he's turning around to leave Boston basically. And Terrence Mann is standing in the middle of the road, like preventing him to leave. And he's like,
Moonlight Graham.
Who is Moonlight Graham? And he tries to force choke Kevin Costner. It's the craziest scene in the whole movie.
Like, you did see him.
Yeah.
Or you did see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know what I saw, but yeah, let's, but now I'm in it. And they realize they got to go. They're trying to figure out like who Moonlight Graham is, and they decide that it's going to be, they got to go to Minnesota, which was Chisholm, Minnesota. And he's like, yeah, I'll go with you. And so they leave, and he calls home on the road, and he's like, yeah, I'm with Terence Man. We're on our way to Minnesota. And Amy Madigan's like, oh, that's great. But then you find out that her brother and all of his partners with the bank or whatever are, it's like, he's like, well, why didn't you tell him what's going on here?
Yeah, the bank has bought the note on the farm.
Well, it's actually,
it's his partner. Sorry, his partner's bought the note on the farm from the bank.
Yes.
So at this point, the bank doesn't have any control. Now the partners do. The partners can foreclose if they want to, if Annie and Ray can't pay the mortgage,
right?
And they're about to, but Annie's brother has convinced them to buy it back at a fair price, a good price even.
Right.
He's doing it he's like, I would be exasperated too if I were this guy.
And because he's also putting himself at risk with his partners.
He is.
Because they bought that note because it's such valuable land.
Right.
That's the thing about farmland in places like Iowa. That makes sense that it would be quite profitable to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there are entire states in the Great Plains that it would be rather valuable for somebody to swoop in and buy up as much of that land as they could, and then rent it or sell it off or whatever.
Yep. Or just like rent it off for someone to work it, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Which is the deal that is ultimately going to be offered them.
Right.
You know, you can live here rent free, just work the land. You got to give up the baseball diamond. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
which is again like a pretty good deal. I mean, you kind of feel for him a little bit. He's our antagonist, but he's what's the word?
Well, he's sympathetic to.
He's whatever. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, but he is sticking his neck out for family.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So yeah, and so he goes. But anyway,
But yeah, she doesn't tell him.
And they go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they say, they go around, they try to figure out who Archie Graham is. They look in the phone book, which is brilliant. I mean, people don't realize that was the internet. If you needed to find somebody,
that was it, man.
That was it. It's like you show up if you got a lead to where you need to be, then you look at the fucking white pages.
Like if you needed something like now, you went to the yellow and white pages. If you needed something like in the past, you looked at what books you had in your house, or you went to the library.
Right. You and you're probably going to be looking at a lot of encyclopedias and almanacs.
Shit, yeah. You better know. Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah, and you also have to know the difference between an encyclopedia and an almanac.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But anyway, so there's your lesson, kids, about how you look up things in the past. Phone books, almanacs, encyclopedias,
atlases too.
Atlases were great for where you needed to go.
Yep. No GPS. You bought yourself a goddamn atlas. Is what you did.
And you better have a buddy or a spouse or a kid in the passenger seat to read it to you while you're driving.
Yeah. Not sure how many miles it was. Get your fucking ruler out, kid.
measure by your knuckle. By the length of the. Yeah, that's about a mile. Okay. So, and you gotta read road signs too sometimes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you gotta pay attention.
Yeah, we just passed bumfuck Minnesota. Well, where do we go from here? Turn right. Anyway, they start poking around. So they don't get what they want. They don't find what they want. So where's the next place they go to? The newspaper.
Yeah.
And that's I wouldn't have even thought of that. Like, but I think that was Terence Mann, who's like, follow me, I know where to go. Because he was a writer. He knows the newspaper people would be the next place to go to find information about people.
Especially in a small town, like they're going to know everybody. Yep.
And sure enough, the old lady there, played by Annie Seymour, or Anne Seymour, character actress, she died 4 months before this movie came out.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, she's like, oh, well, there's Doc Graham. And it's like, no, we're looking for Moonlight, a guy who went by Moonlight Graham. It's like, oh, yeah, no, that's Doc. His baseball career didn't go anywhere, so he came here and became a doctor. And, and then there's all these stories, and like the obituary that she wrote for him was this really sweet, really thoughtful, and like historical reading of the fact that he was a really good dude, and he did a lot for children in the town. And like Terence Mann's reading it, and he's like, this is a really great thing. And she's like, yeah, or he's like, you wrote this? And she's like, yeah, the day he died. And he's like, well, you're a great writer. And, and he is now opening up too, because now he wants to go and find out more about this guy. And so he's going to the bar. He's asking older folks in the town. It's like, this guy, without him, I don't know if Kevin Costner would have known what to do. He would have been like standing in the middle of the road, just staring, in Chisholm. He would have been stuck.
Yeah, he probably would have just kept asking people on the street like he was in Boston.
Exactly. He would have been flashing 20s. Yeah, he would have gone broke. Broker, I should say. But anyway, so they find out about, and he finds out about his wife, who she loved the color blue.
I love that story. It's a sweet story.
Yeah, and all the clothing and hat places would always have something blue in the window, just in case Doc walked by, because he would always buy it, and he would give his wife a present almost every day, so that when he died, they find out that when they're cleaning out his office, they find all of the blue hats that he didn't give to her, didn't get a chance to give to her.
I have to imagine that's a real anecdote. It's just there's too much detail to that.
Yeah, it feels like it.
It does.
For instance, the real Graham's Lone Major. Okay, and then, yeah. So no, I mean. Yeah, of that.
I know a lot of those anecdotes are real, but that one feels particularly truthful.
Yeah. Right. It's just it's such a bizarre story to tell that has nothing to do with baseball. It has nothing to do with anything other than this is a good guy.
Yeah. So they find out who he is, but they're still kind of like, ease his pain, what's going on. They also find out that Terence Mann is officially missing, according to the Boston newspaper.
Yep.
And he looks at it and he goes, oh.
his dad hasn't been able to get a hold of him, so he's like, oh, well, I guess I better call him. And then he's like, what the hell am I going to tell him?
And this is really kind of interesting too, because this whole thing changes. Like, it becomes more than just the field or these messages. Kevin Costner ends up in 1972.
Yeah.
He's a time traveler.
Yeah. And because he sees the marquee at the movie theater and it says The Godfather, one of this year's best movies. And he's like, this year. And he sees a guy walking with his umbrella, because that was one of the stories they told us, that he always walked with an umbrella, just
in case it would rain.
Just in case it would rain.
To beat off his women admirers.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently he was a little frisky, or at least his sense of humor.
That's one of those old man jokes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Totally. Oh, totally.
Yeah, definitely.
And you wink when you say it.
Yeah.
And he is a winker.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah. And he said, they said that, really, honestly, probably he just wanted to carry something when he was walking. He couldn't
carry a baseball bat, so he carried an umbrella.
So he carried an umbrella. So he sees a guy walking in a coat and a hat and the umbrella, and he flags him down. And he's like, hey, are you Moonlight? Are you
Moonlight Grant.
Yeah, and that's Burt Lancaster, and he's like, nobody is called. It's kind of like a Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's like, I haven't heard that name.
Yeah.
Oh, since before you were born.
Yeah.
But then he says, and they decide to go on a walk together, and they just kind of talking about the baseball game, and they end up going back to the office that he practiced medicine out of. And he said, and he tells Moonlight, and it's like, what would, if you had one wish, what would it be? And it's this very, very specific thing that he wanted to do if he ever got to bat.
Yeah.
Which was, it's like, I wanted to get into the batter's box right before the pitcher winds up. I want to wink at him as if I know something he's, that I'm in on something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And, and it's like, well, he basically says, what if I could tell you that I could take you to a place where you could have that happen? Now, of course, this is still 1972, and this is not, it's not like he's talking to the ghost. Like he is the ghost in this situation.
I don't think so. I think he's actually talking to the ghost, but
well, it's possible.
I don't think he literally time travels.
Well, no, but I mean, like, but to each other, they are ghosts to each other.
Right.
So like he's in this place where the guy still thinks it's still 1972. So he's saying, come away. And the guy hasn't died. He's not dead yet, or he doesn't think he's dead yet. And he's like, no, I can't leave my wife. That
right.
would, and he's like, but what about, people would say the things that you were this close. And this is where the whole point of the movie starts to kind of happen here. Because he's like, people would say that you would be, it would drive some people crazy and would be considered a waste if you didn't get a chance to close that gap to how close you were to doing the thing you always wanted to do. And he's like, well, but
some people would call it a tragedy.
Right.
Yeah.
And he talks about, it's like, all the people that I helped since being a doctor would have not gotten that help, possibly could have died.
Yeah. If I didn't get to be a doctor, that'd be the real tragedy.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yep. And Kevin Costner kind of, it registers something in him that, there's something more to this than those kind of childish dreams.
I think he fully buys into that later.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's a little mystified here because he's like, well, if I wasn't here to get you, what the hell am I doing here?
Right. It registers something, but it leads him into, because it plays out even more later when he's trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be getting out of this?
That's exactly right. It's a little bit Christmas Carol. It's a little bit It's a Wonderful Life, right? He doesn't really see, he's not seeing the forest through the trees, right?
Right.
It's,
or the field through the corn.
Or the field through the corn. Yeah, exactly. He thinks it's about someone else, right?
Yeah.
And so that's he's blind to what he's really supposed to be learning here at this point. Yep.
And so he gets back to the room, and he's telling he's telling Terry that I saw him, but he wouldn't come back, so I don't understand what I'm doing here. And Terrence Mann tells him, oh, your wife called. She wants you to call tonight. So he calls, and it's like late at night. And she tells him about what's going on with her brother and all of that. And she needs him to come home. Or he says, I'm going to come home. And he's like, but I got to take Terrence back to Boston. And Terrence is like, no, I'm going to Iowa with you. I want to see what's going on here. Yeah. Which is, this foretells something he's going to say later, I think. I don't think he knows why he wants to go to Iowa, just that he is going to go to Iowa with him.
Oh, I totally agree. he is on this great adventure at this point, but he doesn't understand his place yet.
Well, but also he talks about how later he talks about how they're going to save the farm and how people aren't going to know why they're doing something.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. I think
this is
he's
part. I think
compelled.
it's part of this. Yeah,
He's compelled, and he realizes then that he was compelled. Yeah,
yeah.
It makes sense. Yep.
So they go to they're on the road, and there's a kid waiting on the side of the road. He's like, well, maybe we need some good karma here. We'll pick up this hitchhiker. And
little young Frank Whaley.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they pick him up, and he's like, oh, thanks, guy. How far are you guys going? Well, we're going to Iowa. Oh, that's great. I'm looking for I want to play baseball. These small teams out here, they'll let you try out, and if you get on the team, they'll even find you a day job so that you can play so that you can play ball for them on the weekends and what have you.
Yep.
And he and they all introduce themselves, and you find out that this guy is Archie Graham. And of course, James Earl Jones and Kevin Costner kind of look at each other like, can you fucking believe this? Yeah. And so Archie falls asleep in the back of the van. He's like, yeah.
I wish they would have turned around and said, say what again?
So Frank Whaley does run into a lot of white guy, black guy situations.
He does. He
pairs,
does,
yeah. Anyway, so he falls asleep, and Kevin Costner's putting it together. He's like, he's talking about this situation that they haven't done in decades, where the minor league teams would put you up, they would give you, they'd give you a place to live, they'd give you a job, and it's like he must think that it's like the 20s or something. Yeah. And James Earl Jones is like, well, okay, it's starting to kind of come together here. What's going on? And so they bring everybody back they get everybody to the field, and James Earl Jones is seeing everything that the Kinsellas are seeing. And he's got his big, baseball almanac, and he's looking up stuff, and he's having a good old time.
Hey,
well,
that's Melot out there. Yes.
Yeah.
Because they brought a bunch more players. Because they couldn't play any games.
Yeah. So they found like a dozen more guys to come.
That's when he said that they told Ty Cobb that he could stick it.
Yeah. Ty Cobb would not have liked Terence Man.
Oh, Ty Cobb would have. Well, yeah, he would have. He would have punched everyone in this movie, though.
Oh, probably, and then tried to hit on Amy Madigan.
Yeah,
just for good measure. Anyway, so they basically they're playing their games, and everybody's watching, and Archie gets his shot at the at the bat.
Yeah, I love how wide-eyed he is too, because he can see them, and these are players that are popular just in maybe the few years before his era, right?
Oh, he's going up against a literal all-star team.
Yeah, his contemporaries. Yeah, like people he absolutely looks up to as a player. Yeah.
And he does his wink, and that's when the pitcher of the White Sox tries to bean him, which is funny because that's what kicked off the whole Black Sox thing. He beaned a Reds batter in the first inning of the first game or something. Yeah, or it was very early in the first game, but yeah, he beaned the guy, and that was the first sign that they were throwing the game. But anyway, he ends up getting an RBI. He bats safely, he gets an RBI, and everything's great. Well, Timothy Busfield shows up, and this was pretty good. He walks out in front of the bat because he can't see anything. He's just crossing the field,
Yeah.
Which
Like walking right through the batter's box. Yeah.
Right, and he causes a guy to get a strike, and he gets mad at him.
They have to hold him back.
They have to hold him back. Yeah. But of course, Timothy Busfield doesn't know anything is going on. And then, this is where it's like, all right, so basically, if the bank opens tomorrow, you lose everything. You have to sign this over to me. You can live here rent free, but we got to put the crops back in. You can't keep the diamond. This is a waste. You built a baseball diamond in the middle of nowhere. You've got to do, you've got to give this up. You're going to lose everything. And this is when James Earl Jones starts saying, the daughter says, no, you don't have to sell the land. And it's like,
come, Daddy.
Right. And it's like, of course, now everything is turned where before it was Kevin Costner trying to shut her up about when they were going over finances. Now she's getting shut up by the brother.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, but people will come and they'll come and watch the baseball game.
Yep.
And you see him kind of thinking this over. And that's when James Earl Jones is like, she's right.
Yeah.
People are going to come here. They're not going to know why. They're going to come in, because she says something like they'll go to Iowa City and get bored and look for something to do, and they'll come out here and watch baseball.
Yeah.
And James Earl Jones is like, yeah, they'll come. They won't know why they'll come here, but they'll come here and they'll ask if they can look around, and you'll say, you're fine to look around if you pay $20 a person.
And they'll hand it over gladly and not even realize it.
Yeah. And then they'll just sit here because they're going to, they're just going to sit here because they're going to see something beautiful and something just relaxing, basically. And then you're going to realize that they're going to be watching a game. And basically you're going to make all the money in the world. And by the end of it, I think he might make all the money in the world. That's a long line. That's like going to fucking Deer Creek for a concert. But that's how long that line is.
Yeah, it is a long line. Holy smokes. But
they're going to have to pay a lot to tow away all the cars to the people that walk into the field. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I hope they aren't invited. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them are invited. I'm sure that's why a lot of them will come.
Well, then this turns into Children of the Corn, right?
A little bit.
But at this point, Timothy Busfield's not having it. He's like, you've turned your daughter into a crazy person too. And he goes to like grab her, and she falls off the back of the bleachers and is unconscious.
And maybe not breathing.
It doesn't seem like she's breathing. So, excuse me. So Annie runs in the house to call an ambulance or a doctor or something, and then you see Archie come up out of the field, and he gets right up to the chalk line.
Well,
and,
it's a line of rocks.
Yeah, it's basically the outside of the base path. Right. It's where the field ends, and it's been established that once you kind of go onto the field, you can't come off as yourself, right? I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen at this point, but when Archie decides to step off the field, he turns into Burt Lancaster again. He's aged back into the Doc version of himself, the older man, and he goes and he saves Gabby Hoffman's life. She was choking on a little piece of hot dog. He puts it out of her throat, right?
It's like Timothy Busfield, don't pick up and shake a child who's eating a hot dog.
This is the second movie, and I know what this is trying to portray here, but this is the second time I really don't like Ray, because his daughter's face is blue. She's fucking dying.
Yeah,
and he stops his wife from going to call. He's like, just wait a minute. Just let's wait and see if this ghost figure will come save her. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry, that annoyed me.
Well, I mean, in the context of the story, he knows that he can.
I'm pretty bought
Nobody else does.
I'm pretty bought into the fairy tale at this point that it doesn't bother me, but I agree. Like, you can do both.
Yes.
Right. But there is something what I'm a little irritated at is that then Timothy Busfield's like, hey, where'd all these baseball players come from?
That's the thing that always bugged me is like, why is he allowed to see?
Because he sees a ghost to come out of the fucking.
Because Moonlight Graham,
fair enough, yeah.
Moonlight Graham leaves the field and you can see him.
Yeah, but
it breaks his.
That's not
reality.
even the point that I get frustrated at with him.
Okay,
It's that he tossed that kid off the back of the bleachers, and then his sister's like, "Why don't you just come inside? Let's have some lemonade."
He didn't toss her off. They were fighting over her and she fell.
He didn't mean to do her.
But if he hadn't picked her up, like that, he is to blame for that happening. That's not an accident.
But if we know anything about
it's an accident, but
she is super fucking chill. Like
That's
the
true.
chillest person on the planet.
I mean, it's a good thing that ghost doctor was here.
Yeah.
Because, otherwise we might not be siblings anymore.
Well, it might have
that ties into the whole thing that everybody involved basically treats a little child dying with not enough importance. Like even
I mean,
the way she forgives him immediately. Whatever, it all just plays into that, and I get you don't have to explain it.
It's just a tight bow on things. It's very Frank Capra too. It's like, we need this last moment of conflict or danger to get through,
some angel somewhere got wings.
Right. Yeah. Totally. You're right. Exactly. It's very much like that. And all right. So anyway.
But then he realizes, oh God, the guy who was living out his fantasy of what he could be, what he could have been, but never was. Now he can't go back. And Burt Lancaster's like, so what? I got to do the thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I can go back to being who I was. And by the way, I need to go or my wife might think I have a girlfriend.
Well, and that's what I think it really clicks for Ray.
Right.
That what happened to Moonlight is what needed to happen, what should have happened. What he was drawn to the life that he was drawn, just like Ray is drawn to build the field.
Exactly. And not everybody is going to get, I mean, the harsh reality is that nobody gets to be who they thought they would be. There are, whatever the statistic is, like how many kids were playing in the NCAA tournament and what percentage of that is going to become an NBA player? Like less than 1% or something, like to have like an actual NBA career. It's the reality is that, a lot of those people are going to go on and they're going to do great things that don't involve playing basketball or playing a sport or playing baseball or whatever.
And it doesn't necessarily click for him, or doesn't click it doesn't click that it's his life that he missed out on. He's realizing that his dad had just as fulfilling a life, doing what he did and maybe not being able to realize his careers, even though he wanted, he pushed Ray to play baseball a little too hard and wanted to live vicariously through Ray.
Well, that happens too. Yeah.
He also realized that, his dad lived a full life just as well as anyone.
We did kind of skip over something, the real guilt of that whole situation with the dad, which is because Terence asks, is like, well, what happened to your dad? And he's like, well, I said something really mean and then I left. And then we never had a relationship. He never met my wife.
Yeah, he told him that he could never respect someone whose hero was a criminal, meaning Shoeless Joe.
Yeah,
and
right.
he left for college and he never came back. Yeah.
Right. And Terrence hit it on the head. It's like, well, you don't think Shoeless Joe was,
he's not a criminal.
Right. He's not a criminal.
Did you guys mention too that in that scene in the car, he even asks him, like, why did you say that to him? And he's like, well, I just read your book.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it was like, well, see, this is the type of shit people always try and lay on me.
Yeah. Right. It's like, I didn't make you not want to play ball again with your dad.
Yeah. I didn't make you stop playing catch with your dad. Yeah. Because that's what he said. He stopped playing baseball after he read.
And that's kind of an interesting, too, because I would imagine that there are lots of people out there who became revolutionaries of some sort, right? who inspired other people, and it changed those people. And then they come back and say, "Oh, you did all these because of you. I realized that my second cousin was a Trump supporter, and so I decided to beat his ass at Thanksgiving or something." And it's like, no, I didn't do that. It's like, whatever it is. Like there are people out there who have the sphere of influence, is what I'm getting at, and what they're trying to say and how it's interpreted by people oftentimes comes back onto the person who has the sphere of influence, and that's not really what they were trying to do, and it's not their fault.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this is where you kind of get a little bit of that Catcher in the Rye J.D. Salinger thing too.
Yeah, yep.
Because of the J.D. Catcher in the Rye is supposedly the book that serial killers read, or assassination.
Well, John Lennon was killed because of Catcher in the
Yeah,
Rye.
Right. Yeah.
Chapman. Yeah.
So it's very much that. Yeah, words have power. Words are incredibly powerful. They can move a generation. Right.
They can also move you to.
But
to spend all of your savings and build
but it's a dangerous
cornfield thing.
It's a dangerous thing, both for society and for an individual, to attribute any action to be a direct result of reading those words.
Yeah.
Right.
Which leads you to getting those books banned.
Yeah. Right,
at schools.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's the end of freedom of speech.
Right, exactly. So it's like, yeah, but I mean, I'm sure that there's an entire generation of writers or of activists or whatever who get attributed to other people's actions because they took their words too seriously, or they interpreted them wrong, or they did. I mean, go to Twitter. Go on Twitter. Just go on Twitter.
Thanks.
And you'll see it. You'll see.
But at this point, getting back around to the movie, Shoeless Joe invites Terence Man to come. Hey, you want to come with us? And this kind of pisses Ray off. He's like, "Why does he get to go? I want to know. I want
to know what's on the other side of the corn."
Yeah. It's like, well, you weren't invited. It's like, what do you mean I was invited? I built this
place. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, so and this is where Shoeless Joe kind of, the shoe drops on Ray. It's like, you did all this for you? And he kind of thinks about that, right? He's kind of taken aback by it. And that's when I think he realizes, that everything he needs, he has, right? He doesn't need to know what's out there. He wants to know. He's told, like, you better take lots of notes. You better tell me exactly what you saw, and I don't blame him. But he knows he doesn't need it. He needs what he has right there in front of him. But
so I have a question. I have a question at this point. So, does Terence Man die?
Well,
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know.
There's no definitive answer. I believe he dies. I don't believe he comes back.
I think there's a Field of Dreams 2 back in the corn or something, and he comes back out of the corn and
he comes out and he ends up being Peter Cushing's lapdog.
I don't know.
Space station.
Expound on that, Chuck. What do you? Why do you think he would go if he thought he would die?
He found his peace.
You think so?
I think
I was feeling the exact same thing, Chuck. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he this going there for him and seeing the ball players and being able to take in this dream of his that, had probably been haunting him for the last 20 years or however long. And he felt like, I can go report from the other side now. I have nothing left to do. I've accomplished my mission, for lack of a better term, is just the way I see it.
And he also got back. He also got back out into the world, and he was relevant again.
Yeah,
to somebody, he was relevant again. But the thing is now that leads me to my follow-up question: does he die when he goes into the corn, or did he die before that? And he's been traveling with Kevin Costner as a ghost.
I like that.
We never saw him call his dad. Did he die before?
Has he been dead the whole time?
Yeah.
There had to be some sixth sense kind of stuff there because he does speak directly to other characters that aren't involved, like the lady at the.
But he
Yeah,
could
when
have.
he does all the
newspaper.
interviews, and we did all the interviews in the town. Yeah.
But after that, like when they're headed to Iowa, you know, when Kevin Costner left and met up with Archie, did he die then? Because after that, the only people he talks to, the only people that interact with him, are the people who can already see the baseball players.
That's not totally true because I think Mark hears this whole speech too.
No,
Oh, yeah.
he never responds to him. He keeps just saying he just says to Kevin Costner, "You're going to lose everything. Sign the paper."
Are you sure he doesn't? No, he does. He does recognize him because he asks who's this, like mocks him, and they tell him he's Terrence Mann, and he just laughs at him.
Yeah.
No, he sees
that
Terrence
is true.
Mann. He sees Terrence Mann. I like it. I like where you're going.
But he is also on the other side of those rocks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was never on the field. He didn't come out from the field.
Well,
But
neither did,
I think what his point is,
but neither
that,
did
is that
Doc.
Archie maybe could have been seen too, because he hasn't.
Yeah, because Archie, well,
We don't know if he could have seen Archie because he was already on the field. But I see where you're going. I like it. I don't hate it.
I don't
at
know.
all.
I mean, I just don't because because this could be another thing that could break the fairy tale element too, right? Because it's like, what if he does die when he crosses the cornfield? He never comes back. I mean, now Kevin Costner is a murderer or a suspect.
I did think about that. How the fuck is he going to explain, the disappearance of Terrence Mann now, right?
Sure.
Yeah, but because that does break the fairy tale.
They kind of, I think
So
they
it
kind of
becomes a murder mystery.
Yeah.
I think they kind of leave that as a speculation. The
Sure.
fact that they don't show whether he comes back or not definitively doesn't
Because the
allow
other
you to question.
Yeah, because
Those
the other
other
thing
things.
when he realizes
Yeah,
like, hey,
agreed.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do this, and he's like, well, take a lot of notes. Like, well, I'm a writer. That's what he's a
That's why-
writer again.
That's why I kind of feel like he comes back because he's going to write about this, right? He's inspired to write again.
Yeah, but at the same time, why would Shoeless Joe be so firm in saying you're not invited? You
Right.
can't come in there because you need to be here.
Well,
it's
I
like
think
if you leave, you cannot come back. Is the way.
Not the same way, right?
maybe not the same way, maybe.
Yeah.
But I also think Shoeless Joe knows that that's not what he needs,
Right.
right? What he needs is what's about to happen.
That's fair too.
Well, yeah, that is fair. I mean, it would have been. I mean, like this may have been a little bit too on the nose, but you could have ended up having, even if it was done in voiceover where he's talking about, it's like, well, and as far as Terrence Mann, he got what he wanted, and you see a young black kid playing catch with Jackie Robinson or something.
Well, I feel like if anything, because of the way that we're going to talk about what happens at the end of this movie.
And telling the Ty Cobb to get fucked.
Yeah, but I feel like there could be a scene after where there is a young kid playing ball with them as they're out watching games. But the moment that's about to come was
the most
to
important.
really end it on.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I have a crazy theory that that it didn't have to be Shoeless Joe, it didn't have to be Terrence Mann, it didn't have to be Moonlight Graham.
It's manifestations, right?
Right. Like that's the path he chose. Right? He maybe the voice sparked it, but it was all manifestations of his psyche that made these characters appear. Right? Or they're the characters he went to see. Like it could have been fucking Stephen King instead of
the only weird one in
Terrence
that,
Mann, right? I mean,
the only weird one in that is getting delivered the message about Moonlight Graham. He's
yeah,
the
because
only
he didn't
one.
know he didn't know who Moonlight Graham is. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah,
But I like that too. I like both of what you guys just said. But I don't know if it's the reality of the
but
film.
the point isn't like the journey necessarily. Like there are things he learns along the journey, but point A to B to C has got to get him to this thing we're about to talk about.
Right.
Right.
Yes, because then that's when Shoeless Joe basically says, well, if you build it, he will come. And it's like, oh, well, so it wasn't you, basically. And that's when he realizes that there's one last player who hasn't decided to call it a day, and it's a catcher, and he plays for the Yankees, or he's dressed as a Yankee. And once he takes off the mask, he realizes that's my father. It's like basically a 22-year-old version of his father before he grew old. It's like, I never saw my dad like this.
Well, I'm not even a twinkle in his eye.
Yep. And so Amy Madigan's like, well, why don't you talk to him?
He doesn't know what to do, and he's like, well, why don't you introduce him to his granddaughter?
Yeah, exactly. And
it's like, oh, good idea.
Yeah, well, hey, but
he's still reluctant to call him his father. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Well, he is, but he becomes more comfortable with his father because now he can see him as a younger man who still had some life to him, and so he's getting to see his dad in a way that he hadn't seen him before. And so, it's like they kind of hit it off pretty nicely. And it's like, yeah, this is, I'm Ray. And he doesn't say what his last name is. He just says, I'm Ray. This is my wife, Annie, and this is our daughter, Karen. It's like, oh, hi. And, and he doesn't know what to say to the little kid, which is kind of great because that ties back to, well, I guess he did the best he could as a single father, not really being a great dad or whatever. And he's just like, oh, nice to meet you, ma'am. And then he looks down at the little girl and is like, hi. It's like, yeah, hello. Don't know what to say to you. But anyway, so they go back in the house and they're going to, have a conversation. And of course, the question comes up again. It's like, if this is heaven or if it's just Iowa. And then
what is heaven? And he says heaven is a place where dreams come true. That's what his dad says.
Yep. And then that's when Ray says, well, then I guess this is heaven, which is the whole point of the movie, which is the whole idea, like this kind of faith-based idea of heaven, of this great afterlife that everybody, but heaven's what you make of it, in the very agnostic way of saying, well, heaven is where you feel your best, and that's not when you die. That's usually during your life.
Live your life. Yeah,
you live your life, and if you're happy doing what you're doing, then you're fulfilling your idea of what heaven is.
Right, and enjoying the moments that you're in, like Moonlight Graham. His whole thing, like he had his moment in baseball. Right, he didn't need another one. It's a very nice end to his story, but he even breaks that to save a little girl. Yeah. So, like, Costner is learning to enjoy where he is, not where he thinks he needs to be. He's been fretting over his future and being impulsive and not ending up like his dad and not enjoying the moment that he's in. And I think that's what the field basically teaches him.
Yeah, he's stuck in the past and the future. He's stuck in the future, not wanting to be not impulsive like his dad wasn't impulsive, but he's also guilty about the past, about how he ultimately
he's never in the moment.
Yeah,
he's never in the moment because of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so and everything he has in the moment is great. Right. It's like there's nothing to, I mean, yeah, you might lose the farm, but that's going to change very soon. By the end of the night, that's going to change. But he's, but at the same time, it's like if the field never happened, if he didn't, and he wasn't carrying that albatross of the past, which leads him to want to change his future, he would be doing great, but he has to learn a lesson.
He'd be doing great, but he wouldn't know it. That would be the problem.
That's true, but at the same time, he wouldn't have to learn the lesson if he wasn't stuck in the past.
He'd
and
make
the
himself
future.
miserable. He'd make himself miserable. Because he has everything he needs, but he doesn't accept it or realize it.
Well, no, but that's the guy we meet in the movie. I'm saying if he wasn't guilty over his relationship with his father, he wouldn't be worried about what he's turning into. Sure. And therefore he would be fine where he is now. He wouldn't be driving himself crazy because it's his guilt of the past that's trying to
Yes.
change his future.
Yes.
And he's looking past, he's looking beyond his present. And if he didn't have that guilt, therefore leading to the problems that he's trying to avoid, he would be happy in the present.
Right. The guilt is going to make him a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Yes.
So he has to learn to shed that guilt. And
Right.
by doing so, he meets his father. And he gets to ask him to play catch.
Calls him dad.
And he calls him dad.
I love that. It's gonna make me tear up when the actor turns around who plays his dad, and there's a moment of realization in the look he gives him. Oh, it's just
Yeah. Well, that's how you get a Best Picture nominee.
That moment is like just is as much for him as it is for Ray.
He realizes that he has a future, and while it's not going to be great, he's able to look past his.
Well, it's forgiveness. It's forgiveness from Costner for himself and for his dad. Like his unwillingness to call him dad, because they both know it and they're both avoiding it.
Yeah.
And when he's willing to call him dad again, that's when all of those barriers melt.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah. And so they, you get this really nice scene of them.
Perfect way of putting it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And you get this really great shot of them, throwing the ball. It's nighttime, and Amy Madigan's like, I'm just going to leave him out there.
She turns the lights on.
Turns the lights on for him.
Yeah. And
then so you see them, they've been playing catch for probably an hour now, but before she turns on the lights for them, and then it pulls back, and you see just this hundreds of cars coming to
cavalcade of cars.
Yeah, they're coming to watch a baseball game. I guess they better go get everybody from the bushes to come back out, because they're here now to see the game.
I know. I thought about that too. It's like, you better come back.
Go back. Go get Shoeless Joe.
You got to get the show. Yeah, get the show going. That wasn't a special effect either. They actually got like all the people in town to come and bring their cars and turn on their headlights and flicker them so it looked like they were in motion. It's wild.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Huh.
They were selling hot dogs for $1, so everyone came.
Well, and beers for $2.50. Yeah. and at $2.50 in 1988, that ain't gonna be a PBR. That's gonna be at least a Budweiser. Maybe even a Molson. Who knows? They might even bring something in from up north. This is the last act of this movie is what, I mean, that's what secures it a Best Picture nomination for sure. Yeah. It's because when it gets to the message and when it gets to the moral of the story, it's perfect. And what's funny is that the stuff at the actual baseball diamond is what everybody remembers. That is actually like only a third of the movie.
If that, honestly. Yeah.
The rest of it is on the road figuring this stuff out.
Or in the house even. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's most everybody. It's like, Field of Dreams. Yeah. The guy who builds the thing and they come out of the corn rows and they come and they play baseball. And it's like, okay, well, you haven't seen it in a while because there's much more to that movie.
Well, I think a part of it is, like you guys said, it's so bare bones of the story, and all of the important stuff, like the really important, impactful stuff, happens on the baseball field. Like the rest of it is just the vehicle. You don't even need it really to understand and appreciate what happens there.
Right.
It's just
that is true, though. The big moments happen on that field. Yep. At the beginning and in the end, at the end, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
This movie is just, I mean, it's very well constructed with wanting to, it's using, this is the third time now that we're watching something that is using baseball as kind of a metaphor or a parable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it's, we've had, 3 of our 4 weeks of this has been taken up with how adults deal with baseball.
Yeah. It is fitting how we're ending the month. Yeah. That's a good segue.
Right. But no,
how are we ending the month, Chuck?
Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
Oh no, what's wrong?
I got bad news bears for you, Jeff.
Oh no.
We're covering Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau.
Bernstein
And-
or Bernstein?
We'll find out. This is if I watched a baseball movie, this is what I watched when I was a kid. Other than The Natural, I watched The Natural a lot, but Bad News Bears it meant everything to me as a kid. I wanted to be fucking Tanner. So we'll talk about that next week, though.
I'm excited.
Whenever I watched a baseball movie, it was always that Jimmy Fallon one with Drew Barrymore.
Fever Pitch.
Oh God, Fever Pitch. Yeah.
I have never seen that movie.
I think I've probably seen it.
I don't know if I could watch a whole
well.
movie with Jimmy Fallon. Anyway,
Drew Barrymore's in it
it's
too.
also
though.
That's
it's
true,
also
though.
a movie about the Red Sox winning the World Series, and I don't need any of that.
Yeah,
fair
me
enough.
too.
Fair enough. I wouldn't watch a movie about the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. So. Fair enough. Anyway, I mean, we're going to close things out on a real light note with actual kids playing baseball.
Yeah.
Like a lot of kids still do. So, I'm excited to read. I haven't seen that movie in ages, so I'm looking
It's
forward to
been
that.
a long time. Yeah,
I hadn't seen
very
this
excited.
movie in ages either. The whole thing about, how very little actually happens on the baseball field in Iowa is my experience of what it's like. Oh my God, I forgot that they go to Boston, they go to Minnesota. They, it's like they're all over the place in this.
Yep.
There's a PTA meeting in this movie.
This is one of those movies where, I hadn't seen it in a long time, but everything that happened, I was like, oh yeah. And then I was remembering the next thing that was going to happen right before it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had seen this. I've watched this a lot.
Yeah.
But it'd probably been a good 20 years since I've seen it.
Well, and I mean, to be honest with you, between The Natural and Bull Durham, I was remembering everything.
Yeah.
As I was watching, it's like, oh yeah, so I hadn't seen those in a while, but I remembered it all. So no, that was my reaction to those first two movies. But this is a really good one. This is just a good, nice movie.
Yep.
And sometimes you just need nice movies.
Yep.
But and like I said, Chuck, we're gonna watch more Kevin Costner movies, so hopefully you're not tired of them yet.
I will be.
Well, if we get around the water world, we might have to.
I'll drink my own urine if we do water.
Jason wants to do water world.
I'm gonna be that guy. That movie is much maligned. It's not that bad. It's pretty good. It's better than The Postman. I'm just gonna say it.
It really is.
The Postman. It's better than The Postman.
Well, we've got better ones. We got Dances with Wolves. We got A Perfect World. We've got Open Range. We got Tin Cup. We've got.
All right, we've already talked about 2 Kevin Costner movies. Let's move on, Jeff. Come on.
All right. Well, so yes, we will someday get back around to Kevin Costner, and it won't be baseball related. Anyway, so any final thoughts on Field of Dreams?
Not for me. I think we summed it up pretty well.
I'm pretty good. The only thing I'll add is that I said this in the last episode, so I should probably get into this episode. This was the first movie where I was aware of critics in a 4-star rating.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen the ads for this movie in the newspaper. It said 4 stars, and I was like, "What does that mean?" So this was like the first time I really understand that movies have critics, and that those critics, write things good or bad about movies. Yeah,
And a lot of them really liked this movie.
a lot of them really did. Yep. Only a few didn't. Robert Ebert loved it, gave it 4 stars. He was probably the 4-star review that I saw in the paper, if I'm being honest.
Oh,
It's probably what got me watching at the movies. Jesus, that's Jeff's show. Siskel and Ebert.
One of their shows was at the movies. Yeah,
It was. You're right.
Yeah. No, but the Siskel and Ebert. Yeah, the Siskel and Ebert in the movies was they had at that time. Yeah.
One of the lone dissenters was that cynical Peter Travers at the Rolling Stone. He didn't care for it. Thought it was pretty overly melodramatic, but screw him. I actually like a lot of his reviews, but I was a little disappointed he didn't like it. But it makes sense.
It's kind of easy.
It's not his kind of movie. It's easy to dump on. Yeah.
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 And it's kind of funny because for someone to dump on it with the kind of the reasons he did, like being overly sentimental and a little effusive about the role of baseball in society, that, you know, it's almost kind of like, I don't know, proving the point of the movie.
All right, so here's the deal. When I go on my road trip to bring people to my field of dreams, I need to pick up Peter Travers. Apparently.
Yeah, right.
He needs
That's
to come
exactly
to the
what I'm
field.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
He needs a little bit of childhood wonder in his
Well,
in his vernacular. Yeah,
we didn't even talk about the big speech that James Earl Jones gives,
no, we didn't really.
which is, I'm pretty sure, something that they used when they were advertising the game last year.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. In fact,
First of all, they had Kevin
I
Costner
think
there.
They had him on voiceover, like as Costner was there.
Yeah.
And when the players were coming out of the field, yeah.
Because and I think that they even used it in the commercial for something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because the way he says baseball is
promo.
Yeah, the way he says baseball is very
Baseball.
Yeah, it's very pronounced, the B's in it.
Yeah. They'll come, Ray. They'll most definitely come.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I shut that game out of my head because the Yankees lost, but go ahead.
I don't pay attention to that shit.
No, that was
a regular
game.
season game.
Oh, that game did suck. The Yankees.
It was
tied
one game out of 162, guys.
It was so annoying though, because we scored 4 runs in the top of the ninth to tie it, and then blew it in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah.
Well, our number one fan listener loved that game, so I'm sure.
Well, yeah, probably.
But anyway,
it was a great game. Though.
That was for you, Dad. See, look, fathers and sons and Field of Dreams. There you go. It all ties up nicely.
Is it Cubs Reds this year? They're doing it again this year?
I don't.
Why would it not be the White Sox always?
I don't know. It was kind of weird, right? But I think they're doing Cubs Reds. Probably other teams are like, well, we want to do that too. We want to walk.
Why wouldn't it be Why wouldn't it be the Sox and Reds?
I don't know.
Anyway, whatever. All right. So next week, Bad News Bears. We're going to do that. That's going to be fun. It's going to be a nice light finish to our baseball month, and that's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be fun. I believe in us. Anyway, what else do I have? Oh, next Monday on Monster Mondays, I have the second a TV movie for Kolchak, The Night Strangler.
Ooh.
Those are so good. Those Kolchak's so good. Jason, you need to watch some Kolchak.
I know. I only have a little bit of memory of those from as a kid. I used to catch them a little bit on TV, but I never.
They are streaming.
I never
on something.
really knew what they fully were, and I never caught like complete episodes.
Yeah. No, they stream on something. Tubi, I think maybe they have.
Cool.
Yeah, so you can catch it there. This Friday. Oh, so both of those, both the Monster Mondays and our next episode. You go to filmseizure.com. You can go to the various places you find podcasts. Type in Film Seizure. Probably get something. Probably find it somewhere. But filmseizure.com for sure. You'd be able to listen to those. Also, this Friday, I've got another B-movie Enigma article, and that is Luccio Fulci's Enigma, a weird little kind of Carrie type movie.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it. It's a little weird. It's a Fulci movie, but I liked it. So and in a couple of weeks, B-movie Enigma the series is back for season 3. That's going to be good times. So look forward to that. Do those things at bmovieenema.com. Do our things at filmseizure.com. It's all good. And so until next week, when we hit the diamond for one last time, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.